Are you postnatal and wanting to restore your core? Join us for our 7-day challenge kickstarting 1st of July and free for all members inside Fitnest. If you want to help your body recover after birth, if you want to get stronger in your core and pelvic floor muscles, if you want to reclaim your abdominal strength, then this 7-day challenge is for you. Whether or not you have diastasis recti, you are 6 weeks postpartum, 6 months, or even 6 years after birth, you will feel amazing after these 7 days of quality workouts, physio created and available inside the Fitnest Mama app. Plus, you can join us for a free 7 days. So simply head to fitnessmama.com and the link is in the show notes. Don't forget, it kickstarts in just a few days on July the 1st. So let's do it, ladies. Let's reinvest back into our bodies. Let's feel strong again after giving birth. I look forward to seeing you there. If you are pregnant or you've recently had a baby, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Kath Bequee, a physiotherapist working in women's health and mum of 3. Inside my online program, Fitness Mama, I just love helping support women to care for their bodies during pregnancy, prepare their bodies for birth, and support their after-birth recovery, helping them feel confident and strong inside out during this important stage of their lives. In this podcast, join me each week as we dive into all things pregnancy care, childbirth, and postnatal recovery, helping you through every step of the journey. It is absolutely possible to feel amazing and confident in our bodies during this motherhood journey, and I want that for you. Come and say hi to me on Instagram at FitnessMama, and let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome back to the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. So we know pelvic girdle pain affects up to 1 in 2 women during pregnancy. It can also hang around postpartum. Pelvic girdle pain, it can be debilitating. It could be a mild annoyance. It affects everyone differently, but we know it is a big issue. So in today's episode, I chat to a fellow physiotherapist. So Fiona is a women's and pelvic health physio, and she's a mother to an 18-month-old daughter. So as I mentioned in the session today, I met Fiona back in our postgraduate days at university, and we have stayed in touch ever since. So she is the founder of Grdl, Grdl, which is a modernised pregnancy support belt. So Grdl is designed to offload the pelvis and lower back and support your growing belly during pregnancy. And today's session, we discuss everything from treatment options. We totally brainstorm together. It's a really fun interview. We brainstorm all the different treatment options. We discuss exercise and pelvic girdle pain. We discuss support belts and pelvic girdle pain. We discuss ice versus heat and other factors to help reduce pelvic girdle pain. We even discuss how to move in bed if you're achy and sore. So if you have got pelvic girdle pain, you're going to love this episode. If you know someone who's got pelvic girdle pain, please do them a favor and send them this episode because it's not fun. I know firsthand pelvic girdle pain, it can be miserable. It can totally affect your pregnancy. It can cause a bit of a downward spiral, but as I said, for some people it's a mild annoyance, but either way, it's not fun. It can cause sleeplessness because of discomfort at night time. So if you got a friend with pelvic girdle pain, please send them this episode. If you've got pelvic girdle pain, I hope this episode is helpful for you today. Before I do dive into this episode, I would love to invite you to come and join us inside Fitness Mama. So if you do have pelvic girdle pain, for example, or even if you don't, join us for these convenient, short, easy, quality workouts that are physio created that you can do from the comfort of your home at the end of a day at work, whilst your bubba is lying next to you, whilst your toddler is running around. So Fitness Mama is designed to help you exercise safely and effectively during pregnancy. It's designed to help you prepare your body for birth, to help you have a better birth experience. And Fitness Mama will help you support your afterbirth recovery your postnatal rehab to help you successfully get back into running, get back into exercise, to help you feel confident and strong again after having a baby. If this sounds like it's for you, join us for a free 7-day trial. All the links are in the show notes. Now it's time to dive into this episode today with Fiona. Fiona, thank you so much for joining me today on the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery, chatting all things pelvic girdle pain. To be able to chat with a fellow physio is fun. Doesn't often happen. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Kath. I've really been looking forward to this. So yeah, I'm keen to get into it, talk all things pelvic girdle pain with you. Let's go.
Well, our paths crossed when we were doing our postgraduate certificate in pelvic floor rehab, and ever since we're buddies on Instagram.
I know. Instagram buds. It's a real thing now.
Yes, and you've just launched your own new product, which is a pelvic girdle belt. And I thought, you know what? This would be an amazing discussion on the podcast because as you know, what is it? The stats are 1 in 3, 1 in 2.
1 in 2 in Australia.
Yeah, have pelvic girdle pain. So it's a big issue with pregnancy. It's huge.
No, it's not fun. And look, you would have seen it clinically when you were working as a physio. I see it all the time amongst my patients. And it really can start at any point in pregnancy. You've obviously got the average time frame where it begins around that maybe after the 20-week mark, kind of that 24-week mark. And it kind of makes sense then because you've got lots of biomechanical changes happening, weight changes happening, as well as hormonal changes happening. And we do know, obviously, pelvic girdle pain is multifaceted. But I'm sure you also saw that sometimes there's people who come in as early as, I've seen 13 weeks and they're like, well, I'm barely pregnant. How do I have this pain already, and how am I going to continue throughout my pregnancy with this sort of pain, and is it going to get worse?
Yeah, it absolutely. And not only do we have, as you said, the biomechanical changes, but like life, I got when I had pelvic girdle pain, it was with my second pregnancy. So my body had already been through the joys of pregnancy and birth once. I probably wasn't as strong. It was a pretty short gap between my first and second. And when you're trying to care for a toddler, like the whole concept of, just rest, let it get better, it's not really possible when you're a mum of a baby or a toddler as well as being pregnant. So hence it's great to chat. So today let's talk all things, and this is for everyone listening. We're going to chat about how do we know if you've got pelvic girdle pain. We're going to discuss some treatment options. Fiona, I'd love at some stage to share more about how and why you've developed this new belt that you've got. So it's amazing. Such a good chat. So Fiona, out of interest, did you have pelvic girdle pain when you were pregnant?
I did have some pelvic girdle pain, and really entering my pregnancy, so that was already nearly 2 years ago, I was very keen to try out all the tips and all the tricks that I tell everyone else to do, all the products out there. And you can bet that I did that. I bought so many different things because it was a very different experience to recommend it clinically because I see it work, or because it makes sense according to the research, or because from my own diagnosis, this is the right treatment path, and how it actually feels on my body. So that was part of the reason why I created Grdl, being that pelvic belt that you were mentioning earlier. But yeah, I did have pelvic girdle pain. Fortunately, it was pretty well managed in the way that I didn't have a toddler. It was my first pregnancy, so I could do the right things, avoid the wrong things, and manage my pain in a really pragmatic way. You obviously have that time in your first pregnancy. Obviously, whenever my next one comes along, I think that will be interesting to see if it comes up again and how I manage it, because as much as I'd like to say I'm as strong as I was before my first pregnancy, it's just so hard with a toddler.
Absolutely. Okay, so that we're all on the same page, and so and including listeners, I'll let you be the expert here. what is pelvic girdle pain, and what might someone be feeling when they're experiencing pelvic girdle pain?
Yeah, sure. So we call it pregnancy-related pelvic girdle pain, or you might see it referred to as PRPGP, so that acronym there. And it refers to pain in the pelvis, presenting either at the front, being the pubic bone, and or at the back, being the sacroiliac joints. And those are those dimple-like areas in the back of our spine. It can present at one or all three of these points. And generally, it can feel like a sharp shooting pain. It sometimes can refer into the buttock and into the groin area, but usually it doesn't really go down the legs. That differentiates itself from sciatica or those sorts of pain presentations. But yeah, very much it's a sharp pain. It comes on commonly when we're trying to stand up from prolonged sitting, rolling in bed or getting out of bed in general, getting out of a car, those sorts of movements, sometimes prolonged walking as well.
And there's a few other terms that are used to describe pelvic girdle pain that float around, aren't there?
Yeah. So I guess pelvic girdle pain is kind of that umbrella term for what we have as pubic symphysis dysfunction. So that would be the frontal pain that I mentioned. And then you have sacroiliac joint dysfunction, which is that pain at the back in those dimple areas.
And this term isn't used these days, which I'm really thankful for, but the instability, the term which includes the word instability, I think it's gone out of favour, which is really good, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably why when you said there were other terms, I was like, no other terms, because that doesn't even come up in my discussions. That does not come up when I talk to patients about this. Even, and you know, sometimes they do mention themselves, I've got some pelvic instability, whether they've read up about that or they've been told they have that. But as you said, we know now that your pelvis is not unstable. The pelvis is one of the most stable joints in the entire body. And even during pregnancy, even though it does move a little bit, so it, you know, maybe a few degrees, it doesn't suddenly twist like this. You can see some people with some models online and they're just really twisting these joints. And it's not, we have to understand the pelvis is not made like our elbow joint, which does have a lot of movement. It's a very stable and immobile joint. So yes, maybe during pregnancy moves a few extra degrees, but to the naked eye, we actually wouldn't even notice that.
Yeah. I think it's important to mention though, because although we don't use the term, a lot of people and a lot of health professionals still use the term. And I like to talk about it because the term's scary. I remember it was used quite a lot when I was pregnant. This is showing my age, but this is 10, 12 years ago now. Yeah. And the whole thought about having an unstable pelvis, it makes you fearful to move, to walk. Like it's scary to think your pelvis might fall apart on you. And so, I'm very thankful that we don't use that term just in it, if for nothing else, rather than just taking away that imagery of an unstable pelvis.
And I guess, you know, we know pregnancy is not for a day, it's not for a month, it's for a long time. And there's so many things, so many new things that are happening, especially in your first pregnancy. And to be told that you have an unstable pelvis and then it probably will get worse or it may get worse. And obviously your pelvis is where your baby is held. That creates so much fear. It can create a lot of movement, avoidance, so exercise avoidance, which we know has so many negative effects on our physical well-being, our pain levels, but also our emotional well-being and our psychological health, all of which during pregnancy is so important. So like you said, I'm so happy that that term is slowly but surely being less spoken of.
Yeah. So I'd love to ask you, because when someone joins fitness, like we've got pelvic girdle pain friendly workout. So a lot of women join my program with pelvic girdle pain, and I always encourage them to also go and see a physio for an assessment, treatment, diagnosis, because we know that, you know, exercises can help to potentially, not always, but prevent or manage or improve pelvic girdle pain, but sometimes we do need some manual therapy and some good old hands-on treatment. So when I'm suggesting people go and see a women's health physio, talk me through what happens in an assessment.
Yeah, sure. Often people will come in and tell me they've got some pain. Often they'll think it's coming from their back, but once we get them to either point or describe what brings on their pain, we can differentiate whether it is from the back and or the pelvis, and it can be both sometimes. We also do a number of tests, so physical tests on you to determine if it is pelvic girdle pain. And these are pretty quick and non-invasive. So we'll always make sure you're comfortable and aware of what's going to happen. But it's just us touching your pelvis in certain ways and seeing how your hips and joints respond to different pressures. And we'll also look at some range of movement through your back and your hips as well. And then based on that, we can kind of determine that you do or do not have pelvic girdle pain. In regards to the treatment, there are so many treatments you can do. I have so many people that come in who think this is it and this is how I need to be the rest of the pregnancy. And often their only hope is that it does not get worse. They often don't realize that it really can get, for majority, not everyone, but for majority of cases, significantly better, even if you get more pregnant, which is quite baffling sometimes because you think, I'm going to get larger and slower and everything's going to become more effortful, but I'm going to be in less pain. And it really does happen if you do the right things and avoid some of the aggravating motions. So we can talk about that now. In regards to hands-on treatment, so obviously there can be some stiffness in the joints and tension and spasm in the muscles around the pelvis. This can be from a muscle guarding point of view. If you're in pain and also if you're deconditioned because you have been avoiding movement or you're not sure what sort of exercise to be doing, then muscles go into overdrive and they try to compensate and compensate and compensate until they can't do it anymore. And that causes even more pain. So it becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy in that way. So one of the big things we do during treatment is try to reduce tension, reduce spasm, and reduce stiffness. But then we'll also give you a bunch of things that you can be doing throughout your day to modify the way you're living, change really simple things. So we can go through some of these in a moment if you want. I generally have a whole list I give my patients and then we kind of tweak it to their lifestyle requirements. And then there's also obviously support garments. So support garments like the Grdle Pelvic Belt, it helps to offload the pelvis, increases the support around the pelvis and the lower back, and can mimic having stronger muscles. Obviously, I'd never say now you have strong muscles and you can do whatever you want. It's just to give you that opportunity to reduce your pain, get back to moving so you can get stronger. Because as you know, you do one fitness mama class and it doesn't mean you're strong. It takes some weeks to build significant strength. But with the right sort of support belt, you can have pretty instantaneous relief, and that can go a long way in setting you up on the right track.
Yeah. Great. So let's chat through some treatment options, and let's first of all leave out exercise, and then let's have a bit of a chat about the exercise side of things too. Yes, I'll let you take it away, Fiona. I will just say for everyone listening, this is general information only. Of course, if you've got pelvic girdle pain, please go and seek the support from your healthcare professional. But this is general advice, but
yeah. I mean, look, even if everyone comes in with low back pain or neck pain, it's not always the same treatment, and people don't all have the same goals. You have some people who want to run during pregnancy. Some people just want to be able to go to sleep pain-free. So different goals, different bodies, different pregnancies. So obviously individualized advice is always best. So with treatment, I mean, like I said, there is some hands-on component to reduce some tension, reduce some stiffness. But then we also do give some advice on what you can be doing at home. So one thing is icing can help in the acute and inflammatory period. So often people come in and they don't come in after having one flare up. They come in after potentially weeks of pain that's become progressively worse. So everything is quite sensitive or hypersensitive even. So icing is a great way to reduce inflammation. Obviously, something like ibuprofen during pregnancy is not recommended. So this is a great local and direct and unmedicated way to reduce your pain immediately. You can put ice on either your front or your back, so pretty much wherever the pain is. That's kind of what I recommend. And you can be doing it multiple times a day, obviously not directly on the skin. So
and I was going to say on the front is where the pubic symphysis is. It's quite there's not much tissue, so to speak. So I think that responds really well to icing. Sometimes I always suggest starting with icing, like with the sacroiliac joint, like around the buttocks. But, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts here, there's so much muscle over the top, like glutes. I sometimes wonder how far is the ice actually penetrating, and does it respond better to heat to help reduce the if there's any muscle spasm, for example, to help relax the muscles. So I always think ice is great because that's getting to the cause of the issue, right? Because often there's some sort of inflammatory response. But the reality is I don't know how much ice penetrates through the SIJ. So, yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I think it depends on the body type. And again, this is how it's individualized to you. There's some people that come in and obviously every pelvis is different. You can see people's SIJ dimples directly there. There's not much tissue there. I mean, those people are going to respond so well. And there's other people where it's really hard to find those spots, and everyone's shaped in a different way. So I think, look, you're going to have no harm in trying icing. I'd put that out there.
Yeah.
You can try it. Often people have already come in and seen me, when they've come in and seen me, they've already done the heat. They're like, oh, I've already been doing heat. So I think if the heat, this is just from the patients I've seen recently, if the heat was going to work, it would have worked. That's kind of how I look at it. But obviously there are options for different people with different needs. But generally icing, like you said, it gets to the root of the cause. If it's not working for you, you can try heat first to reduce any spasm.
And some people, like in the middle of winter, let's face it, who loves ice? So if you're going to pick and choose your time when you put your ice, we'd probably recommend at the end of the day when there's perhaps more inflammation around, and then at the start of the day if you're feeling a bit stiffer in the joint, perhaps that might be when heat is more effective to help get everything moving. But again, it's such a grey area, and research doesn't really help us in this area. Is that right? We don't really have solid research to say ice versus heat, so it's very individualized and a bit of trial and error.
It is because pelvic girdle pain, it's not just a mechanical to do with your pelvis. There's research now, it used to be said that it's all to do with relaxin. Well, we actually have debunked that now. We know it's not all to do with relaxin because every single pregnant woman has relaxin spiked and not every person has pelvic girdle pain. So we know it's to do with a concoction of hormones, how people respond to hormones. It's also worse in people who are more stressed and more fatigued. So
the way your baby's positioned.
Yes. Obviously where you are in your pregnancy, what you've been doing during pregnancy, how strong you were entering this pregnancy. There's so many factors. And also we know if you had pelvic girdle pain in the past, you are, which is probably your example, more likely to get it again. But hopefully you enter it well equipped.
And I always back that up. It is true. Research does show we're more likely to get it again. But there is also research to show if we do the rehab after one bout of pelvic girdle pain, then that reduces your likelihood of having pelvic girdle pain for a second pregnancy. So ladies, if you're listening and you're pregnant, once you've had your baby, don't forget about your rehab, because that will be really important to set your body up for your future pregnancies. Yes.
And also, I mean, let's not forget it can be existent postpartum, which is the most annoying form of pelvic girdle pain to treat clinically, because and really it's hard for the patient because there is no end date. Pregnancy, you kind of think, okay, I've got 2 weeks left or 10 weeks left, but there's no specific end date. And look, the stats show it's only about, I think, 6%, 8% postpartum have it. But for that 6 to 8%, that's not ideal.
I know. Absolutely.
So, but in that case, obviously, and we'll get onto exercise. That's where exercise is absolutely key. So some of the things I get people to change in their day-to-day. So I have a list of my do's and my don'ts, as I said. So icing is one of them. Another one is sleeping with a pillow between your knees, just to keep your knees parallel if possible. Rolling in bed. So ideally pretending you have a pencil skirt on, rolling with your knees glued together, knees over. But the other thing is you can roll under as well. So that takes a bit more upper body strength. But if you've got it, that personally for me was a game changer.
Are you postnatal and wanting to restore your core? Join us for our 7-day challenge kickstarting 1st of July and free for all members inside Fitnest. If you want to help your body recover after birth, if you want to get stronger in your core and pelvic floor muscles, if you want to reclaim your abdominal strength, then this 7-day challenge is for you. Whether or not you have diastasis recti, you are 6 weeks postpartum, 6 months, or even 6 years after birth, you will feel amazing after these 7 days of quality workouts, physio created and available inside the Fitnest Mama app. Plus, you can join us for a free 7 days. So simply head to fitnessmama.com and the link is in the show notes. Don't forget, it kickstarts in just a few days on July the 1st. So let's do it, ladies. Let's reinvest back into our bodies. Let's feel strong again after giving birth. I look forward to seeing you there. Yeah, right. My game changer. Oh, this is so fun to talk. We're like bouncing ideas off each other. So my game changer was doing like what I call an 8-point turn. So rather than just swinging your knees over with the pillow in between, I would literally put my feet up, move my pelvis slightly, put my feet up, knees up a bit more, move my pelvis slightly. So I would do it in about a 6 to 8 point turn slowly because I found if I activated those glutes whilst I was moving the pelvis, that really helped with my pain.
Yeah. So for me, it was just the way, look, I've always had probably better upper body than lower body strength. So I use that to my advantage, but if you can, rolling under makes such a difference. Some other things are avoiding prolonged standing and sitting. So often that first standing up from a prolonged sitting is where the pain can be quite bad. And I have so many people who come in and they're like, oh yeah, I sit 4 hours at a desk and I know it's bad for my neck, but it's actually, what's causing or aggravating, I should say, their pelvis pain. So, some tips would be to break up that monotony, whether it is prolonged standing because you're cooking. And I know when I cook pasta, I watch the water boil for 20 minutes for whatever reason. I don't.
Do you?
Right?
Oh my God, Fiona.
I just stand there and watch the water boil. And
really?
Yeah.
Is this pre-children or since you've had your kids?
I don't know.
Baby.
No, I think it's my time to if I'm by myself, I just want to
meditation.
Yeah, just be in the moment and watch the water boil. But anyway.
We digress.
Definitely. Anyway, that's definitely not the point of this. But sorry.
And when we're talking about breaking it up, absolutely agree with you, but it doesn't actually need to be that complicated. For example, when sitting, we could just do some pelvic tilts to break it up. We don't actually, sometimes it is hard to move around, especially if you're busy at work and you're stuck in a meeting. Yeah. Whereas doing some pelvic tilts and doing some butt squeezes and pelvic lateral pelvic
glute
tilts.
Stretch? Like bringing your ankle up, that figure 4 and seated, gentle leaning forwards. You can still do everything you want to do.
Same as standing.
Yeah, absolutely. Often people have a sit to stand desk, so just utilizing that a bit more. Another thing is I get almost everyone to have a spiky ball at home that they're just massaging into their glutes. And it's just a great way to mimic that sort of treatment that you'd receive in an appointment at home. Often the glutes can be quite tight for the reasons we mentioned earlier. So massaging them, it can be 30 seconds. It doesn't need to be a full 10-minute session. And doing both sides, even if you do have one side that's more sore than the other, because the other side would be.
Can I share my mum hack here?
Yes, I think that's your mum.
Mum hack.
Yeah.
So once your baby, like even if they're 16, 18 months old, you can play a game with them.
Yeah.
So you're lying horizontal, right, on the couch. So horizontal, always a top tip. Take the weight off your pelvis.
Yeah.
But you massage your child's glutes where you want them, and then they can massage yours. Sure, it's not going to be great, but trust me, if you end up having 3 kids, and they're 2 years older.
Yes.
My 6-year-old now gives me the best massages, and it's just, even if it's not a good massage, just the lying horizontal I think can be really helpful, and then prodding around your butt is really nice.
And they feel like they're helping.
Yeah, they think they're helping their mummy who's got a sore back. Yeah.
Which is great. I'll have to train my one up for that.
How old are they? How old is he?
She's
20
months.
I should have known that. 20 months. Oh, she's totally capable of massaging your glutes.
Yeah, I'll that's it. We know what we're doing tonight.
Or you could give them a tennis ball to rub into your glutes too.
Oh, I think that would go flying somewhere in the room.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Hit you in the head.
But yes, break something.
Sorry, I keep distracting you, Fiona.
All good.
Keep
I was
going.
going to say, just a note, you said the horizontal rest, so important, but if we are pregnant, we want to be side lying, not lying on our back, just to, obviously, especially in that 3rd trimester, where possible. It doesn't really matter what side, but horizontal rather than sitting up tall with your legs out straight. That's still pressure downwards. That's what people often forget. Other things are, I've just lost my train of thought. Other things, big one, kicking doors and drawers shut with your foot. I am one to always do this, stand on one leg and just, especially when you're holding a toddler, because you're not going to put them down, or a baby, standing on one leg, kicking doors and drawers shut. It's all that pivoting on, maneuvering on one leg. So a lot of the tips are to avoid that sort of single leg movement if it aggravates you. Obviously, there are people who are pregnant who can do this till the day they give birth and have no problems. But if you have the pain, these are some things to avoid. Stair climbing is a big one. So obviously, if you've got stairs at home, you don't need to move. But minimizing the amount of times you have to go upstairs and downstairs, if possible. You're at a shopping centre. Or
doing the step 2 pattern. So instead of doing one step, then the other step, you could, if you had to go up the stairs, you just go, it's hard on a podcast, but you step up to each step.
Yeah, you
so
put both feet on the same step.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
That's all right. I got it. It's funny. I didn't like doing that when I was pregnant. So I've stopped recommending that. But it's, again, something I used to recommend. So, again, everybody is different. What works for someone will not work for someone else. But
out of interest, did you find it more painful than the normal stepping pattern?
Equal.
Or
and it just took me double as long.
You're right.
So
I found if I held on to the rails, so that was deloading.
Yes. Yeah, the rail was great. And having a belt on when I was doing that, and not going ridiculously crazy with the amount of steps I was doing. But that was probably more helpful than both feet on one step. But for some people, it helps. So this is one of the tips you can try.
And some people can go sideways fine, but forwards is not fine. But I don't know. I don't think that's very common, but it might be worth trying.
And I think that's also, you can't really... I'm just worried about a fall and bad movement patterns. And I guess it really depends, how severe your pain is. If it's that debilitating that you need to, go sideways, then you go sideways. But I think if you can go forwards and you can do everything else and it's not aggravating because you've done all the other good things.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you're not going to go sideways unless you need to.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's really...
It can be debilitating, though. So it depends what degree and what level of pain you have, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the other things that come to mind are, some of the other things that come to mind are obviously, do you breaststroke kick? So when you go swimming, I have some people that I see who love their swimming. Obviously, swimming is a great form of exercise during pregnancy, but that breaststroke kick, it just tends to bring on their pelvic girdle pain, especially if it's that frontal pain. So just swapping it out for some gentle kicking, getting dressed, sitting down, anything from the waist down. That's a big one, makes a world of a difference and often sets you up really well for the day. And I say to do this one, even when you don't have pelvic girdle pain, just do it till, well, once you've, had your flare-ups and you've managed them, just continue doing it till you give birth, because I don't know. I don't see the point of standing on one leg trying to get your foot into a trouser and potentially topple over, especially in the final weeks of pregnancy. If you can do it pretty easily sitting down, so that's a nice one. Anything to add from you, or can I?
Out of interest,
yeah,
how often have you prescribed crutches?
Not often, but I do not. But I mentioned that it. I guess for people that I've. Okay, how often do I prescribe it? Really not often. I could probably count on even one hand how many patients I've had over the years who've needed crutches. Yeah, and really it's not many out of all the people I've treated. But I do mention to some people who potentially don't look after themselves enough, and even the ones that, just they're not probably taking not the pain seriously enough, but it is debilitating them, but they're kind of doing more passive treatments. So they're relying on me to reduce their pain. They're relying on their belt, and it's just not enough, unfortunately, for them. And their pain is still that 7, 8 out of 10 and really consuming their life. I do kind of encourage them to do the other things to avoid the need for crutches, because that is really limiting. It helps so much, and it really does offload the pelvis drastically, but who wants to walk around with crutches?
No. The reason I mention it, though, is because I do think they have a place, even if it's just, and of course it's going to be those women who are at the really debilitating stage, but even if it's just for 1 or 2 weeks to help settle down the inflammation so that then they can, get, and whilst they're doing all the other treatment options and the exercises and the icing and the stretches and all the rest. But I do think they do play a small role in a small percentage of women that are really struggling to move. Like, I'd prefer for someone to walk with a nice gait pattern, walking pattern with their crutches versus what I was doing for a week, which is like holding, because it happened when I was moving house. Furniture walking, using the wall to walk. Yeah. Like, it was so painful. I couldn't leave the house anyway. So, and I refused to use crutches. I was like, I'm a physio. I was like, I'm a women's health physio. I can't be using crutches. So it was like an element of pride. But I really do think if I'd just given myself the permission to use crutches even for a week, it would have settled my pain down so much quicker. Yeah. And then I could have had a more enjoyable remainder of the pregnancy. So I like to just put that out there.
Yeah.
Because it is this, and hopefully you get the treatment early enough that you don't need crutches, but I think it can be a valid treatment option.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, that's that small percentage, but I think with walking, I mean, not only, you've got people who are absolutely doing this huge waddle, and you're going to cause more problems and you're going to be in pain. And again, it becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy where more pain causes more discomfort, which means more limitation of movement, more fear avoidance, more deconditioning, more pain, and it continues. So not only will crutches improve your walking pattern, but it will reduce your pain pretty instantaneously. And then, in your case, if it could have given you then another 5 or 8 weeks afterwards of just not using crutches and moving more comfortably, well, I'm sure you would have taken that with both hands.
Yes, if only we could speak to ourselves in hindsight. It would be, anyway. Right,
let's get on to your own advice.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Let's get on to exercise.
Story. Let's get on to exercise, Because I think I've had so many women who join fitness with pelvic girdle pain, and then they've sent me messages saying, after doing your workout, I don't have pelvic girdle pain anymore.
That's amazing.
And I really think there's an amazing potential that women, like movement, and you know this, like movement is medicine. And I think it's a very under-recognized form of treatment. If we can do the right movement, because this is the tricky part, then it can help so much. And this was one massive reason why I developed Fitness Mama, is because I couldn't go to the physio when I had my pelvic girdle pain with a toddler, and I worked in a clinic, for goodness sake, and I found it so hard to get into my car, drive, find a car park, walk from the car park into the clinic, get the treatment, go back to the car, buckle my toddler in, come, 2 hours later, I was in more pain after going.
Yeah.
So this is where this was exactly one of the reasons, the biggest reason why I developed my program. So take it away, Fiona. Exercise and pelvic girdle pain.
So look, I mean, we know strength. We've talked about some stretches and massage, but strengthening is really how you're going to build that foundation, build that increased internal support to better support your pelvis, your lower back, your stomach throughout pregnancy. And also we know the benefits of exercise for just your general well-being, your general mental health, your happiness factor, your sleep. So all those benefits come along there too. In regards to what you should be strengthening, I mean, my go-to are obviously glutes. I should start by saying that all exercises should be pain-free. So even if it is a pelvic girdle pain safe exercise, but it causes you pain, then that means in that moment that is not appropriate for you. It does not mean it is never appropriate for you. It's just in that moment, that's not right for you. So you swap it out for something else. So glute strengthening is a big one. But the other one, mainly for that front pubic symphysis pain, is the adductors, because the adductors they're the inner thigh muscles. They connect from the inner knee all the way up to the pubic bone. So they physically attach to the pelvis that way, and they can be an area of a lot of tension and a lot of weakness. So strengthening those muscles, and that can obviously be done often. I mean, I'm sure in your program you use that. Do you use like a yoga block or an exercise ball to put between the knees to activate?
Yes, but we use it with a cushion instead. We use
a cushion.
We use equipment around the home.
Perfect. You could even, put your fists between your knees even. So it's, really simple things, but that's kind of that squeezing together, activating those inner thighs. But still a point of, if it's sore in your pubic bone when you do that, that's not right for you. You should feel it in the actual muscle. And then obviously doing very safe but appropriate abdominal core exercises. So there are ways that you can do this in a safe way throughout pregnancy, and that obviously contributes to general core strengthening. And obviously I'm not going to leave out pelvic floor exercises here, because that would be, I don't even know if that's possible for me to do, being a pelvic floor physio, you as well. Pelvic floor, it's the floor of the pelvis, and your pelvis is currently in pain. It's a no-brainer to make sure you are doing pelvic floor exercises, but making sure you're not just turning on but turning off. I find so much, and I think this is echoed in the research, but definitely in my clinical work, patients who come in with pelvic girdle pain generally have a pelvic floor that's not great at relaxing. So,
and I will add glutes and adductors that are also, and all the muscles around the pelvis are not good at relaxing.
They're just gripping.
I think they grip, exactly. And so, yes, they often do need to be strengthened. And this is one thing I do with the pelvic girdle pain exercises. Every time we strengthen, we also relax, and not so much relax, but we learn how to release. It's a very subtle difference, isn't it? Like learning how to release versus stretching. Yeah, learning how to let go. So I think that's the key, like exactly what you said with the pelvic floor. And I do that with all those muscles around the pelvis with our workouts.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think those are the kind of the main areas. And I
was a brick.
Sorry?
My glutes were a brick. I could not let them go. Yeah, I still remember everything was like.
Yeah, you obviously sounded like you got to a good level of high sensitivity there. Yeah.
Anyway,
it's all right. Yeah. Now you're helping all the women.
It's funny. I don't know if you experienced this ever, but it's almost like there's an element, and I wonder if anyone feels this. Send me a message on Instagram. But sometimes, whether or not it's with birth or pelvic girdle pain or any stressful situation in your life, when you think back on it, it almost evokes a bit of a physical response. Like for me, my heart rate goes up when I think about that point in time. And COVID's another one. When I think about the lockdown and homeschooling, my heart rate actually goes up. I have a physical response too. Anyway, this is not a therapy session for me. Let's move on, Fiona.
All right, we do call it physiotherapy for a reason. So I think this is where we talk about.
Yeah, so I think we've talked well about exercise side of things. I want to know why there are quite a few pelvic girdle belts out there. I'd like to know, why did you decide to develop a new pelvic girdle belt?
Yes, great question. Because, I'm, no marketing background, no business background, no fabric upholstery background. I'm a physio through and through, women's health physio now. So very much out of my league, I felt. And there were many, many, many moments of imposter syndrome of, why exactly am I doing this? And I even had some comments from randoms of, oh, doesn't this already exist? And that was lovely to receive. But yeah, basically during pregnancy, like I said, I tried on all these belts and they just, some felt supportive, but I felt too restrictive even if it was the right size, even if I made it looser. Some really dug in to my abdomen, especially in the later weeks, even like we're talking from 28 weeks, which is still 12 weeks away from, I gave birth at 40 weeks, so 12 weeks away from when I was going to give birth. So yeah, all these different things. One, some were too thin. So they kind of, again, felt like they didn't really mirror the pregnant body. It more felt like it was created created more like a belt that you would wear around jeans, not a belt that's meant to support a pregnant body. So for all those reasons, I kind of thought, you know what, let's just see where this goes. And I created Grdl, so Grdl, Grdl. Obviously the name is based on the pelvic girdle. And basically the idea of Grdl is to offload the pelvis. It is not the same width all the way around. It is wider at the lower back, so it does support the lower back, and then it kind of slims down, but not too much around the front to cup under the belly. So that's one of the main differences. Some of the other differences are that it is latex free. One of the belts that I was specifically selling to my clients had latex in it. So again, a few people have allergies to that. Even though it doesn't go directly on the skin, I have some patients who, especially in the warmer months where they don't want all these layers, they would wear it with a crop top because they were happy to just walk around in a crop top and that's fine. Power to them. But again, they couldn't do it because it was irritating to the skin. So this is a nice trade-off with Grdl. Then the other thing is that it is made of a neoprene base. Neoprene is obviously moisture wicking. It's really lightweight. The belt is not heavy at all. It doesn't even feel like you're wearing it, other than the extra support that you'll feel pretty quickly as soon as you put it on. But neoprene is also very flexible, which means that when you sit down, it doesn't dig into your pelvis and feel like you're going to urinate immediately, which is what basically every other pelvic belt I tried did. And not only for myself, but I tried this on so many of my clients and friends and anyone I could basically get who was pregnant to try this on. Well before I launched Grdl. So those are the main differences. It's more comfortable to wear. In my opinion, it looks nice too, which obviously is a bit of an aesthetic component. But again, why not wear something that you feel nice in and it suits some of your outfits? And it's, comfortable and easy. And we make sure it's at a comfortable price point for people as well, because it's pretty crazy. You enter pregnancy and anytime something has pregnancy on it, there's often a spike in cost, which is ridiculous. So that's one of my goals.
Absolutely.
As well. Make it affordable.
And with pelvic girdle belts and also pregnancy leggings and all the rest, I often suggest women get measured up for them rather than buying them online, just because you don't want to spend money buying something online that doesn't actually fit you or is the wrong size. So when it comes to like your pelvic girdle belt, for example, or other ones, what do you suggest? Do you suggest the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, look, so Grdl is now in, I think, around 20 clinics, but that's Australia-wide. So Australia's a big country. So there might be one right near you. We do have a stockist directory on our website, but there also may not be one near you. And I've had actually a lot of people buy them who live in really rural communities in various different states and territories. So I think in those cases, there often isn't one near you that you can try on. And even for the big brands, again, there may not be something near you that you can try on. So if you can try it on, obviously much better with any sort of garment to make sure it fits and feels well for you. But we've sold quite a number of belts so far, and I've only had, I haven't had anyone really have any problems with the sizing chart. We have a video on how to do it. We have a guide, and any questions, obviously email, and I always respond back within the day.
Yeah, perfect. Good to know. Okay, I think we have covered everything that I wanted to chat about. To finish off, yes, go for it.
I was going to just say, I think we should probably mention that, when would we wear pelvic girdle belts, tubie grip, which is really common, abdominal garment, and pregnancy shorts or leggings, compression wear, which is, again, so popular. So many different amazing brands are offering this now.
Great question.
So pelvic girdle belt, pretty much when you've been diagnosed with pelvic girdle pain, or you have pain at the front and or back of your pelvis, that's kind of your go-to product. Tubie grip is an abdominal tubing garment, safe to wear in certain sizes during pregnancy, and then tighter sizes postpartum, and may be provided to you by your hospital in certain situations. That is more for obviously abdominal separations, any significant doming, but it also can be for low back pain because it does go quite high up. It sits to basically where your bra line finishes. So it can support the entire lower back and give your abdomen a bit of a lift as well. So if you're feeling kind of heavy, so that's where that comes in. And then there's obviously the leggings and the shorts, the compression garments that sometimes can be medical grade compression, and they are brilliant garments. I don't know if you wore any during pregnancy. I tried out a number of them again, which was really exciting. And they're great because they give support to the perineum, which is that area between the vagina and the anus. They can offload some pelvic floor symptoms, support the pelvis and the lower back and the abdomen, but they're not specific enough for pelvic girdle pain. So what you can do, and I do have patients do this, they wear the belt with the tubie grip, or they wear the belt with the compression garment as well. And obviously you take on and off your belt as needed. Going for a walk, chuck it on. If you're, had a flared up day, chuck it on, but then the shorts can stay on the whole day, for example. Is that kind of how you would?
Yeah, absolutely. And the pelvic girdle belt, and yours might be different, but I always found they weren't actually very comfortable while you're sitting. So if you're up and about, pop them on, move around with your toddler, walking, doing your jobs. But let's say you're sitting at a desk all day, you might just take it off while you're sitting, pop it next to you, and that's when the leggings might be more helpful. And then when you stand up and get moving again, you pop on your pelvic girdle belt.
So that's part of the reason why I made girdle, because there were none that were comfortable. And I found that I didn't wear it because I was like, I have to take it on and off and on and off.
Yeah.
So it should be more comfortable. But even so, even if you do feel comfortable wearing the girdle in sitting, you don't need to really support your pelvis in a sitting position where your pelvis is already supported. And if anything, like we said earlier, we don't want you sitting for 3 hours on end anyway.
And just to follow up one thing you said, and I will link, I've done a podcast episode with Sarah from Solidea, another physio, and she's got all the pregnancy leggings and compression wear. So I'll link that episode, but do just want to mention one big difference between abdominal, the tubie grip, is that it doesn't offer the perineal, as you said, it doesn't have the perineal support. So if you do have pelvic floor issues, so it's probably more likely if it's your second pregnancy beyond, or even if you know that you got weakness during your first pregnancy, you might benefit if you are going to wear the tubie grip, pop on your compression leggings that has the perineal support as well. You just want to be aware of putting that abdominal pressure where everything's sort of being pushed down south. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think if obviously if there's any sort of like vaginal heaviness, if there's any sort of vulval varicosities, tubing grip's just absolutely inappropriate there. You need something to give that support from below upwards. Also, tubing grip is a great cheap garment, very affordable, but it frays. So it doesn't, it's, you know, if your symptoms start at 20 weeks, it's not going to last you another 20 weeks. Whereas, no, maybe it is. I don't know. Mine didn't.
It depends how long you cut it. You just cut it a bit longer.
Yeah, I guess.
But then,
It's
right. It is annoying
stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas, and you know, you can't wear it. It's not an outer garment. You then have to layer yourself up. So
yeah, not very practical.
Quite hot. Whereas obviously medical grade compression garments can be worn more summer undergarments, summer outer garments. Yeah. Look, there are
so
some
it depends on your it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
As you said, everyone's different. Depends what your issue is and if so have a chat to your physio. And I'll link the other podcast too. It's a big topic. We could have a whole episode just on that.
Absolutely.
Which we've already done, so we won't repeat.
Good.
Amazing. So to finish off with, Fiona, for someone who's listening today, they're pregnant, they've got pelvic girdle pain, they've made it to the end of this episode. What's your one parting gift, tip, hot tip, whatever it is you want to say?
I want to say that your pelvic girdle pain does not have to continue. There are so many things you can do to make yourself feel better, and they really do work. Just seek out a local women's health physio. They will guide you. There are resources out there, and there are products out there as well to really help you so you can continue to move and exercise and do all the things you want and enjoy your pregnancy.
Love that. And I'm going to add a little one too. I just want to put in that it's not your fault. You know, shit happens, life happens, you move house, you've got a toddler. So, it's not your fault. What you haven't done, you haven't caused your issue.
And also, sometimes you haven't even done those big moves and you don't have a toddler and you still get it. And it's just, it's one of the wonders of pregnancy, like so many other problems that, you know, we encounter, and it's just part of it. So hopefully it doesn't happen, but if it does, you're in the 1 in 2 in Australia. Very common and very treatable.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today. That's it, ladies. Before I sign off, remember my team and I will be putting together the show notes for this episode with all the links, including how to connect with Fiona, how to check out the Grdl Pelvic Belt, and how to come and join us for pelvic girdle pain friendly workouts inside Fitness Mama. So head to fitnessmama.com/podcast and all the links in the show notes. That's it, ladies. Have a fabulous day, and I look forward to you joining me next week for another episode of the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. Thanks for listening to the Fitness Mama podcast, brought to you by the Fitness Mama freebies found at www.fitnessmama.com/free. So please take a few seconds to leave a review, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and be sure to take a screenshot of this podcast, upload it to your social media, and tag me at Fitness Mama so I can give you a shout out too. Until next time, remember, an active pregnancy, confident childbirth, and strong postnatal recovery is something that you deserve. Remember our disclaimer, materials and contents in this podcast are intended as general information only and shouldn't substitute any medical advice, diagnosis or treatment. I'll see you soon.